All right, welcome everyone. Just a few housekeeping items before I introduce our esteemed speaker. We are recording this session, so no need to take notes. We will be uploading it to our YouTube channel in a couple of weeks once the program is closed captioned for those who require closed captioning. We will be having another program like this, Wednesday Wisdom. Today's Tuesday Wisdom, of course. A Wednesday Wisdom program, December 6th, related to applicant tracking systems. So I'm kind of have a technology focus this semester. I know that's a hot topic for those of us who are job hunting, trying to get through those applicant tracking systems, kind of myths about them, how to get through them, what they really are all about. And we have an expert on that, a faculty member in our human resources program who actually set up applicant tracking systems for multiple companies, major companies. So she is going to be our speaker about that on December 6th. So be on the lookout for announcements about that program. So let's get right to it. I want to introduce Dr. Scott Dell by actually sharing a video created with AI. So if I can do that, let me set that up. Just give me 1 second.
Sounds good. And Lisa, thank you for the invite to be here. Appreciate the opportunity.
Yes, my pleasure. Let's see, is this it? Hold on. Trying to do this. It is, okay. Okay.
No sound though. When you share the screen, check the two boxes for sound. Do a new share, I suspect. Stop the share.
Yeah, I usually have trouble with the sound, and I don't know why. I've always had trouble with the sound. So Scott, can you share it? If you can, are you able to do that? For some reason, I always have trouble sharing sound. I don't know why.
Okay. Well, I'll go ahead.
This is why I have an expert do this and not me. But if you want to just go for it.
We're in this together. Okay. So I'm going to share. One of the tricks is in the bottom, there's two boxes to click on the audio. So I'll make sure to do it. And click on and share. And I'll give you a brief background and brief introduction where I'm coming from as a perspective. What was Lisa was just going to show you is something called Calissian. And I have Calissian here loaded up, and there's English, Spanish, and Chinese. And it is AI. So I usually introduce my assistant, Richard, who is willing to work 24/7, who also knows over 75 languages. And since Richard's been working with me, has never, ever asked for a raise. So I'm going to go ahead and let Richard introduce me briefly and give you some background.
Hi, my name is Richard. I am thrilled to be able to introduce you to Dr. Scott Dell. Bursting with energy and passion, he's here to stimulate your minds and inspire your actions. Dr. Scott's track record includes more than 20 years of domestic and international business experience and has Big Four CPA roots. His wealth of knowledge is only matched by his dedication to sharing it with others, as evidenced by over 15 years of full-time academic teaching and program management experience. Bridging the gap between academia and the practical, Dr. Scott excels at incorporating cutting-edge technology into effective business practices. He's dedicated to helping others harness the power of technology and drive success in their own lives and businesses. Enjoy his wisdom as he transforms the way you approach the world of business. Dr. Scott combines the best of academia with the direct application to effective business practices. This enhances the lives of those he has the honor to encounter. Dr. Scott's journey doesn't stop with teaching business and inspiring clients. He authored the definitive guide to effectively using LinkedIn, titled Your Complete Guide to Succeeding with LinkedIn. His thirst for knowledge has led into cutting-edge technologies like ChatGPT and GPT-4. Recently, Dr. Scott presented at the Association of Accounting Educators annual conference. He delivered the keynote speech at the AI CPA and CIVNA's 5th Global Academic Champion Forum. His upcoming appearances include keynoting for the state and presenting at the National Association of Colleges and Employers Conference in Florida this June. Additionally, Dr. Scott will present for the SCA CPA at the IMA 23 Annual Conference in Minneapolis and at the American Accounting Association gathering in Denver. Get ready to be enlightened by Dr. Scott's engaging and relatable presentation style. Prepare to learn, share, and grow as we embark on this journey together. Take it away, Dr. Scott.
Okay. So as you can probably guess, that's not a real Richard or a real person, and that's not the amazing part. I mean, the intro is kind of cool. It is text that I typed in, but let me show you something I found truly amazing. And I'm going to do one more presentation to you, an abridged edition of this. And when looking at this, you're going to say, interesting, because I mentioned Richard knows over 75 languages. When Richard is going to speak in Chinese, watch his lip sync. Watch it match.
你好，我的名字是理查德，我很高兴能够向你们介绍斯科特戴尔博士。
And I don't know how many of you know Chinese, but I don't. But my dissertation advisor was from Taiwan, and he said the Chinese is impeccable. But you'll notice the background changes, the closed captioning changes. And frankly, I've worked with folks. I put these links on the top of a resume, Spanish, French, English, Chinese, depending on where you're applying for jobs. And I've had people get favorable reviews and have kind of differentiating yourself when it comes to the interview side of the house. So that gives you some insight as to that kind of stuff in terms of using AI and integrating on your resume. And right here, it's in Spanish, Chinese, Indonesian. And if you want some links to this stuff, Cilician, there is another one called Synesthesia. That's actually a little more popular, but frankly, I like Cilician better. And yes, I did write the book. He mentioned Your Complete Guide to Succeeding with LinkedIn, and just published literally within the past 4 weeks. 3 weeks ago, Living Your Career Dream with Dr. Anna Maria Bliven out of Wisconsin, out of Madison, and Living Your Dream Career Workbook. So a textbook and a workbook. Workbook just came out last weekend, and we're having actually a launch party coming up. I'll give you some more details if you're curious or if you're interested. So let's go ahead. We'll go ahead and continue. This format is really going to be more of an interview style. So Lisa's going to have some questions, and hopefully I'll have some answers. Maybe Lisa will have some answers. But if at any time you have comments, questions, or needs, don't have to wait till the end. I love taking questions as we go because things are top of mind, and I want to make sure you get your answers while you're here. So I'll go ahead and open the floor. Lisa, you're on.
Great. So I recently heard an urban legend. Maybe it is true. Urban legends, could be true, could be false. About TikTok, that a job seeker claims that they used ChatGPT to write a cover letter that they claim got them the job, that they, or at least got them the interview that then got them the job. And so that really piqued my curiosity. I have to say that kind of inspired me to look into AI a little bit deeper in terms of career development. And in fact, very recently on Facebook, a group popped up within a career development group that I belong to, a sort of a subgroup related to AI in career development. So kind of a train the trainer coaches group about how are we using AI? How are we advising our clients to use AI in their job search? And that's what really spawned this program, because I wanted to know more. How do I advise my clients to use AI in their job search? Should I advise my clients to use their AI in their job search, and how? Is it ethical? Is it advisable? And is it real? Are people using it, and does it work? So that's why I engaged with Dr. Scott, because he really is the leading expert on this topic. And so Dr. Scott, talk more about this. First of all, let's talk about AI in general. I know you have a poll about this. How widespread really is AI? And is it sort of this, is it going to take over the world? And is it going to take over the job search world? And talk a little bit more about that.
Okay, but by the way, I'm glad you didn't ask me about lazy girls on TikTok. But as far as TikTok goes, it is a cool platform, a cool environment. And it is an environment that, yes, you can and should use. You have two questions you did ask earlier. Should you use it? Most definitely. Does it help? Most definitely. Will it get you the job? Not necessarily. It'll help. It's a tool. You want tools in your toolbox. Every tool, whether you can know Python and R, whether you have the emotional intelligence and you have the ability to network, all these tools in your toolbox will get you forward. But going back to AI in general, is it going to change the world? Short answer, yes. And by the way, the answer it usually give, and in all my classes, I say, I expect a 2-word answer for every question I ask. And the 2 words are, it depends. I always follow it up when the student says that. I say, it depends. Perfect answer. It depends on what? So I'm going to say the short answer was yes. A little longer answer is it depends. And let me tell you about it depends on what. I frankly think AI is a game changer of life as we know it, of capitalism as we know it. Bigger than the wheel and the axle, bigger than the printing press, bigger than the calculator, bigger than the internet. It is going to change life as we deem it, as we know it, as we sense it. And I do have a quick survey I'd like to take of the audience. And I think we're up to 20 odd right now. And if you don't mind answering the following question, and you can type your answer in the chat. So I'm going to go share my screen. I'm going to go pop it up and say, have you used artificial intelligence? So just in the chat, do it a 1 if you're not sure, 2 for a no, 3 for a yes, and 4 for I don't do surveys. Okay, so I got some mostly yeses. I saw no in the mix, and mostly 3s though coming in. Yes, cool. And keep coming. Give it another 5 seconds. We got another 2. And I will warn you, this is a trick question. You say, what do you mean trick question? I have it or I haven't. It's pretty obvious, right? Well, the reality is, I bet even the ones that said no or possibly not sure have used Google Maps, have said, hey, Alexa or Siri, have watched Netflix. We're all using AI to some point. And many of you will not be using AI directly through ChatGPT, through OpenAI's platform, but you'll be using it through applications. Tomorrow, November 1st, is the release of something called Microsoft Copilot. Could you put a yes or no in the chat to tell me if you've heard of Microsoft Copilot with a yes or a no, please? Okay, I've got some yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. All right. It is the ultimate in AI assistance for Outlook, for Excel, for Word, even for Teams, and for other tools on the Microsoft platform. It will go ahead, and you've got a graph or a chart. You don't need to use pivot tables. You don't need to draw graphs in Excel. You can say, hey, analyze my sales, compare it to my cost of goods sold or my gross profit, draw a graph, make that a bar chart, and you're going to have a dialogue. You're going to tell it to do things. It's in English. And the whole point of the newest, most productive programming language known to mankind and womankind is English. So the tools are out there. I'm going to ask one more chat question, okay? And what is your level? I'm going to, again, want to gear it towards the audience level. Your level, and you can have multiple answers. I can spell it, heard of it, but not used it. 3, used a few times, but not a regular user. Or 4, I'm a regular user. 5, power. Okay, so I got 3s and 4s I'm seeing so far, and actually pretty evened out. 2, not used it, that's fair enough. Lots of, I'd say 3 is the median, and we're pretty good. Used a few times. And the last question I will ask is another yes/no question for a while. Have you used GPT-4? That's the paid version, either through Bing, which is free if you use it on the Microsoft platform, or you paid for it $20 a month. Because ChatGPT 3.5 is the one that's free, everybody has access to. Free version, that's good to go. So there were a couple that started out saying yes, but mostly no, and we're good. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about 4 as well. So Lisa, getting back to your question, by the way, and thank you for participating. That helps gauge the presentation and make it more effective for your needs and your use. So back to, is it moral, legal, appropriate to use this tool? And the short answer is, again, it depends, but it depends on what your goals are. And think about it. If you told me on YouTube, they drafted a cover letter, as most of you know, it's a prompt. You ask it a question, draft me a cover letter. It'll draft you a cover letter. It'll be garbage. Draft me a cover letter that includes my experience relating to the high-tech industry and programming. And I do program in SQL, R, and Python. And I also had an internship at Google for 3 months where I performed XYZ. If you're giving it a prompt that's giving you skills and things you've done, it will improve on what you've done. Now, if anything you've said is a lie, it'll improve on the lie and it'll project it. But the cover letter will help maybe get you in the door. But then you're going to go interview. So if your cover letter is pristine and the interview is lousy, you're definitely not going to get the job. So the skill set, this will complement you, not necessarily replace you. And there's a tagline out there. There's an article written, Intelligent Magazine. It basically said, you're not going to be replaced by AI, but you might be replaced with someone who knows AI. So the idea is we need to be familiar with this technology. It is pervasive. It is growing. It is accelerating. A lot of HR professionals I know are sweating it, saying, I'm reading these almost perfect resumes, almost perfect cover letters. I know these folks couldn't have done this. And they're saying, well, we got to screen out the folks. It's hard because they really are really good. And by the way, there are detector tools that don't work real well. OpenAI just discontinued theirs about a month and a half ago. It was 30% accurate. You're better off flipping a coin and saying, is it AI, than you were using the OpenAI's own tool that they discontinued. So it is a real
clearly,
challenge.
if they have a perfect resume, they met with me, Dr. Scott. So.
Of course, the exception. I apologize. But you get the idea, and you're right. There are coaches out there that are very good, and there are individuals very good. If you do your homework, you do your research, you look at the trends. For instance, on a resume, you and I know that you don't want to put your street address. City, state, zip, appropriate. Street address is something that's a more recent addition. ChatGPT is going to recommend the street address typically. So if you ask it for a resume, it'll give you one. If you ask it for names, I was looking for the board of directors of a publicly traded company, 20,000 employees, big company. It gave me 8 names. Not one of them was right. It's called hallucinations. So, and in the chat, put a 1 if you've heard the term hallucinations or have an idea what it means. Put a 2 if you don't know what it means. I want to know if I need to explain that a little bit. So 2 don't know, actually pretty broad cross section. All right, let me talk about hallucinations for a minute. The tool is terrific. It is language-based, and I'll tell you how it works in a minute and how it thinks. I hate the term. We anthropomorphize this stuff all the time. It doesn't think. It's a computer algorithm, for sakes. It's actually a tool in your toolbox. But if we're looking at hallucinations, it lies. It makes stuff up. And when you do that, it can go in a different direction. I integrate in my class regularly. I say, okay, give me a book in history, English, or business that you've read or did for your class. So I said, summarize the book. And one of the books that was given to me, it said, okay, father and son go on a journey on life. They go through trials and tribulations. They come out on the end gloriously and things are terrific. The problem is, in the end, the father dies. So it's not quite as terrific as it thought, but if you hadn't read the book, and the English teacher is going to know that, it's not all glorious when it comes to the end. And the way it works, let me explain a little bit about how it's AI and this large language model, because it has a whole bunch of data that's pulled in. It pulls and says, okay, let's project the next word, the next logical word. Okay, I was hearing about Chicken Little, and I heard Chicken Little was right. He said the sky is, and you would say, and go ahead and put in the chat. If I told you Chicken Little's conversation, the sky is what would you put in chat? There you go. I have people say falling, 90% chance. I have people say blue, 20% chance. I've had people say cloudy, stormy, whatever, 10% chance. It projects on a basis what the next word is going to be. So technically it's a word projector. And it can go off and veer off in a crazy direction. Because if you've ever played the game of telephone as a kid, or you have kids that play telephone, hi, here's the message, pass it on. By the third kid, it's getting garbled. By the 10th, it doesn't even resemble the original message. And that was what happens in ChatGPT 3.5 and GPT-4. It can veer off course because it's taking the word, generating next word, and it can go off a direction. So anytime you get content, you better never, ever send it as is. You better review it. You better read it. You better validate it. I'll give you another example. I teach accounting. Second week of December, okay, November 30th last year, 2022, this thing came out. Within 5 days, it had 1 million users. Okay, I was late to the party. I was probably part of the 2nd million. I was in the next week and then the following. But I took an accounting test. And I said, here, let me ask you these questions. The first 4 out of 5 questions, it got right. And I said, dang, I said worse than dang, but I said, I'm not going to be able to use a take-home assessment, a take-home exam ever again. This stuff is pretty good. The next 5 out of 6 questions, it got wrong. And I was more worried. Why was I worried? Well, the English is impeccable. The logic flows. It's very convincing as an argument. And it just sounds right even when it's wrong. So it got 5 out of 6 questions wrong, ended bottom line with the 46% of my exam. I was more worried because my students I know would trust it more than they should. And I'm here to teach critical thinking. I'm here to make sure folks understand concepts and can do problems or whatever. And I'll tell you how I addressed that. I now have a You're the Auditor exam. I said, here's the exam question. Here is the ChatGPT answer. I give it. You can get it anyways, free. And then I give 3 other distractors or alternatives. And I say, if you want to get a 46% or 52% or 54% on this exam, circle A. ChatGPT is right. Cool. If you want to do better, circle the right answer. So it is forcing folks to actually analyze and think a little bit deeper on the process. So lesson learned, hallucinations, it is a challenge. What I don't tell my students is GPT-4 scores between an 80 and an 84%. So I'm back to worrying, but it is that much better. GPT-4 now will pass the bar exam. It was in the 10th percentile with 3.5. Now it's the 90th percentile. It now passes a CPA exam with some advanced prompting. Basic exam, no. But the original exam, 3.5, failed gloriously. You do some extra prompting on GPT-4, it will now pass all 4 sections or 4 parts of the CPA exam. So the tools are being used. Will it get you, does a cover letter get you a job? I don't think so. Does it help get you a job? Well, it depends who you talk to, because a lot of HR folks said cover letter is worthless. Don't bother. The problem is about 1/3 use it and 2/3 don't use it. So when you apply for a job, you want to roll the dice and hope you got the 2/3 that don't use it? Or are you going to draft a cover letter to go with whatever you're submitting anyways? So obviously you can probably sense my recommendation. You probably want to have one anyways. And we're actually customizing resumes. We're customizing cover letters every time. And nothing wrong with using ChatGPT or GPT-4 to help you customize. And one other point I will bring up, you can input a cover letter. You can input a resume. You can input your job description, and this will link to your ATS next session. You can say, compare the description to my resume, and what am I missing? Any keywords that are on the job description that I should have in my resume, and let it feed back to you and give you those keywords. Well, you want to put those in a LinkedIn profile. You want to put those in your resume as well. So I know, long answer to a short question, but I'm sure there's room for more. What else would you like?
So I guess the moral of the story is really, don't let it do the work for you. Really, just like even with a coach, don't let the coach do the work for you. Let it be a tool to kind of help you, and always check its work. So, again,
recommendation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If you are producing a cover letter or resume or anything else, draft one yourself. Don't say, give me a cover letter. Give me a resume. If you want to say, give me a resume, it'll give you a resume. And again, it'll be full of nonsense. And then you'll prompt it, well, add these things to it. And then you prompt it again, no, add some more to it. The best thing to do is start up with the resume and say, tidy this up, or emphasize for a high-tech audience, or I'm applying to a job at Google or Microsoft or IBM, and I want it to be tidied and focused. Or, and I'll show a couple of other options if we have time, but you can also say, take this URL. You can't do this with 3.5, but you can do it with 4, and you can't do it in Bing. Take this URL and give me the mission, vision, and values for the company. And then there's something called Edgar that has financials. Take this balance sheet income statement, and well, I'm not an accountant, but tell me some financial performance metrics on this company. So when you go in and you say, you can talk to the company, say, yeah, sales increased 30% last year. And this is an example that he did. It's 29.7. Sales increased 30%. How did you guys do that? You guys are succeeding gloriously. I'd love to be a part of that. First of all, they'll now know you know something about the financials, even if you don't know accounting. They'll know that you did your homework and did your research, and they'll probably answer the question, and then you can springboard off the question. They're saying, well, here's how we did it. And you can come in saying, and here's how I can fit in to enhance that.
I often use ChatGPT when I have writer's block as well. You know, if I'm just really struggling, I'm looking at a blank page and I'm like, I just can't, get my thoughts going. What do you think about that?
It's a wonderful springboard. And you're right, writer's block is prevalent. You're staring at a blank screen or a blank page saying, what the heck do I write about? So you say, you know what? I need to write an article in the career space about applicant tracking systems. What are 10 of the top issues that are being discussed these days? And it'll give you 10 ideas that you can springboard from. I'll give you an example. I just used it. I was presenting in Bethesda 2 weeks ago. We had a panel, and a colleague from North Carolina and myself, we led the panel. We had somebody from KPMG, one of the big 4 CPA firms. We had another academic who's done a lot of writing in the field, and my colleague and I, who are experts in the field. So we said, all right, we're moderating a panel. What are some suggestions on techniques for moderating? 1 moderator, 2 moderator, we're gonna have a panel of 3 to 5 people. We're talking about this, we wanna do that. We've got an audience that's skilled or not skilled and whatever. And if you design the prompt appropriately, it gave me 10 ideas with a description, pros, and cons. And frankly, I probably thought of 4 or 5 of them. And the other 5 were actually pretty creative. You say, this isn't creative stuff. Well, depending on how you prompt, it can become creative. And we ended up having a format, because I know the political debates weren't working so well when they had 2 moderators. And so we didn't want to do that style. But it said, you know what, have a rotating moderator. So I'll give you an example of what we did. We took straight out of GPT-4, not ChatGPT, but GPT-4, which is much better, and said, have person present a question, have the next panelists, in this case 3 panelists, comment on that question, and have it go back to the original questioner to give a capstone and summarize. Then you go on to the next new person. They ask the question that they had, that they've prepared, that they're knowledgeable on, and then 3 more of our panelists, and I was one of the panelists there, and we rotated. It worked out super well. But we're using the tools, and the key is use it regularly. 10, 15 minutes a day, the same LinkedIn instructions, right? Use the dang thing, and you will learn how to better present yourself, better make yourself available, and better learn to use the tool.
So Dr. Scott, someone in the audience wants some simulations. I know we were just getting to that actually, so it's good timing. How about some live demos for us?
Simulations, you bet. I'm going to show you an example here, actually, of a conversation. I'll go live in a few minutes, but I want to give conversation to you that you can see what the information is and how it kind of works. And it's a dialogue. I used to think of this as a Google on steroids, but I was so wrong, because it really is beyond Google. Google, you give it a prompt, it gives you a whole bunch of resources. You got to do the digging. So and this is not quite in the, I just did this yesterday. It's not quite in the space of career, but think about it in terms of a dialogue. So here's the prompt. You're an experienced physical therapist, 20 years experience. Your client needs rehab for a torn lateral meniscus on the right knee. Tear is not severe, but is limiting activity of the patient. Design a workout plan step by step to build up strength, yada, yada, yada. Before proceeding, this is the key. Ask me questions about the patient that will help you design the most appropriate plan so that it can be tailored to specific patient needs. Response. Thank you for providing more context. I believe I designed a rehab plan. I have a few questions. How old? What's the patient's general health, fitness level, yada, yada. Okay, I respond to that prompt, answering the questions. Thank you for the detailed information. Here's a patient's profile. Phase 1, acute phase. Rest protection, ice, quadricep set, heel slides. Okay, phase 2, strengthening stationary bike, strength Q, wall slides, step ups. Phase 3, functional training weeks, agility, balance, exercise, plyometrics, whatever that is. So anyways, and then based on execution above plan, what can I tell the patient about realistic expectations of mobility and activity and what they need to be careful of when they do physical activity? Again, I'm not trying to teach you physical therapy right now, but I saw my physical therapist for the first time because I tore my lateral meniscus. That was me. And I wanted to find out what kind of things I should be thinking about. And I'm going to present this to my PT, said, what do you think? Because I'm not the professional, they are. The point being, as a professional, it'll 10x what you do. If you're a PT using this stuff, you know what polymetrics are, and you know what elastic bands are, stretch bands. You know all the different kinds of exercise, the lunges or whatever they're talking about. As a novice or an amateur or even a student, it'll 2x or 3x what you do. It'll improve what you do. So back to your original question, can you do simulations? Can you ask questions? Yes, you can. You can have it prompt you. It's not just you prompting it for an answer. You can have a dialogue. And that's why it's beyond a Google on steroids. You will also have the ability to say, I'm applying for a manufacturing role as a marketing director and in the packaging industry. What kind of questions would someone be asking me at a C-suite level or manager level or an associate level in this kind of position? As a matter of, and it'll give you the questions. And then you can say, question number 3, can you give me an appropriate answer that's going to get me hired? How about question number 5, do the same thing? So you can actually query it, and no guarantees, it does hallucinate, but with the word conversation stuff, it is very, very effective in producing and generating text and generating conversational methodologies and abilities. So back to your ATS, back to your interview, back to your resume, all of these things. And there are third-party tools out there now that you have an AI interviewing you, and it will rate you based on your ums, your ahs, your pace, your level of language. Now it is powerful, and it tell you things about yourself. I'm a big Toastmasters fan. I started a chapter out in Madison, Wisconsin, for my students and for the community. Amazingly powerful. I actually had a number 2 guy at a cheese manufacturer said, I love folks in Toastmasters. They are literate. They can carry on a conversation. Ums and ahs are at a minimum. I said, well, how can you tell? Well, they have all those functions and they also put it on the resume. I said, that's cheating. Wait a minute. But he did say, you know what? He's even on a resume or not, he finds that is a powerful tool. And the more you can do in an AI environment, again, it's a third party. Not necessarily you're going to have a video interview on GPT-4, but that's coming, by the way. I'm going to share one more slide that I think you'll appreciate and that will make you aware of things that are coming down the pike. There is something called a PVA. So I have a prediction for you. A personal virtual assistant. And with that, soon you will have your own personal concierge, personal tutor, personal virtual assistant. Now, Siri is going to go on steroids coming up in Apple GPT, that's in next year, 2024. But there are tools out there right now, and you can do this in GPT-4. I'm going to talk about something called plugins for your own edification. What a plugin does, it's almost like an app that's added to to your phone. But a plugin is available on GPT-4 only. There's over 1,000 of them. Expedia is one. Well, what's Expedia going to do? I need to travel to Wichita the end of November on Wednesday, on the 20 whatever. I need to get a flight out in the morning between 9 and noon and find me the cheapest fare. You can ask that in GPT right now, GPT-4. Other add-ins. Go to this article, and I'll give you a demonstration of some of those that I've used before. Let's take a look. I've got a couple of things here. Creating a video. no intellectual property restrictions, pictures of people, closed captioning, music in the background. In about 3 to 4 minutes, you can create one. I created a 2.5 minute video on a career coach to help a job seeker prepare for an interview. Okay. An analysis of a company. This is a publicly traded company. This is a mission and vision I asked you about or talked to you about. I put the link in the query. I'm interviewing with the company of the following link. Please analyze the mission, vision, and values, key accomplishments, highlights overall company accomplishment. I can interject during an interview for a senior marketing role. Okay. 2.5 hour YouTube video. You might have heard the name Sam Altman being thrown around. He was a co-founder of OpenAI, which is the company that developed this stuff. Lex Friedman's a sharp interviewer. But this is a 2.5 hour interview. Okay, I confess I listened to it on high speed, but it was well worth it. But I said, summarize this video, 10 points. Okay, screen 1, open early days, achievements, potential, understanding GPT-4, 6 through 10, and then building in public confidence. So this was an application where you're doing your research. And again, it is a GPT-4 thing because I had to use the URL, the site, the YouTube video link to summarize it. But if you are reading magazines, if you have research papers, 25-page research paper, I don't have time to read this stuff, summarize it. What do they use for statistical methods? What did they do with whatever? You can ask the questions. Occasionally it'll hallucinate. Reminder, warning, warning. On the other hand, usually it's pretty good stuff and may give you a springboard for other questions that to be answered. Again, long answer, short question, but hopefully that was complete enough. Other questions? Other thoughts? You want me to do a simulation? Let me go in and actually I'll go ahead and do, for some of you that have never seen GPT-4 in action, let me go in and do that. I'm going to cheat. I'm going to use this prompt right here I had before. Okay. I'm interviewing Sunoco role, and I'm going to go in live to GPT-4. So let me go off and say, all right, share screen. Let me load it up. And I usually have it pretty well loaded, and I will be there for you in a second. So let's just do a demonstration of OpenAI's GPT-4. I'm going to share my screen and go give you a full screen effect. And oops, full screen. No, I'm still partial screen. Let me stop that again. New share and basic. There we go. Okay, so this is what it looks like if you got the paid version. If you have 3.5 access, it's our fastest model, great for most everyday tasks. It's quick, it's clean. By the way, if you use this more than twice a week, the $20 version is more than worth it, in my opinion. If you're going to use it just occasionally to play, to experiment, 3.5, the free version will get you fine. So here's GPT-4, and they have some things. You can browse directly with Bing. They introduced DALL-E 3, which creates images, and you can actually, it's now integrated directly here. It used to be you had to go to DALL-E 3 from OpenAI separate. But I'm going to show you something called plugins. Remember I told you there were over 1,000 plugins? And I've got the plugins loaded here. One's called Web Reader. Another is called Browser Op. And you're limited to 3 at a time. And the one that I really like is Web Pilot. So I'm going to pop in my prompt. And that prompt that says, I'm interviewing with the company following Sunoco, 20,000 plus employees, global company, South Carolina corporate headquarters. Please analyze the company mission, vision, and value. The more information you give it, the better off you are. So if you're doing some research on this company, you're going to want to know something about them. So, okay, I'm interviewing, I want to talk about them. I could do a Google search. I could read their website, but why don't I let AI read the website for me? So it's going to go ahead and Web Pilot, and that's one of the add-ins, one of the plugins. And based on the contents, there's an analysis of the company, mission, vision, values, aim to provide solutions on a range, delivering convenient, nutritious snacks and complex tasks like reducing food waste, feeding the hungry, yada, yada. Vision, companies are bringing healthy, fresh food to tables globally, improving the safety. Values, sustainability, from their EnviroCan product, which is part of the EnviroSense range, designed to make packaging easier. Nature and industry, consumer focus on delivering fresh and quality health food. Industrial aims to enhance safety and durability. Protective, healthcare. Key accomplishments. Assist as Plottis, the global stacking company. It might be interesting to know in the journey to make packaging more recyclable. Proactive safety measures, well-being of everyone. By the way, I've never met an employee at Sunoco that doesn't love being at Sunoco. And this is not the Sun Oil Company, which is the gas company. This is Sunoco, Southern Novelty Company. And committed to being involved here. Overall accomplishment, innovative packaging, acquisition, recently completed the acquisition of RTS Packaging. Oh, so how did that go for you? There's an interview question. Insights, sustainability initiative, safety culture, innovative packaging solution. Okay. Remember the Point Service Foundation. And then tell me some interview questions I might encounter for a senior level marketing role. I could ask it for an answer. Certainly, it's really giving. Strategic, hey, how do you stay updated with the latest marketing trends and technologies? And I'm not going to say they're all good questions, by the way, but it'll give you enough of them that you can be the judge. You can say, oh, this first question is lousy, but oh, that reminds me. And what you were saying, Lisa, before about using it from a white page, this starts giving you an idea saying, oh, this is Springboard. How about this? How would I answer the questions from section 1 above? And it's going to go through, okay, customer centric, digital marketing, cultural fit and soft skills, future vision. Enough questions to ask. If you got a 2-day interview, you're good. And I got to press the go button here, send it. Okay, certainly. Here's a guide on how you might answer questions from section 1, the focus. How do you stay updated? Answer. I believe in continuous learning, continuous improvement, regular attend industry conference, webinars, workshops. I subscribe to journals and blogs such as, and by the way, it makes up book names. I ask it for 25 books in the career space about a certain topic. 22 of the books, of which many I recognized are great. 3 of the books were made up, fiction. I was marketing to a group. I do a lot of CPE, continuing professional education for accountants. I asked it for all the state societies of CPAs, give me their first name, separated from the last name, give me their email address, give me the association name, the association abbreviation. Not one of those 52 names it gave me was correct. It gave me 52 names because I asked all the names of the associations. All the associations were fairly accurate, but obviously none of the email addresses for the executive director or CEOs were accurate because it gave me all the wrong names. Marketing strategy, be concise. Okay, it actually gives you some tips. When answering the questions, essentially be honest. Authenticity is crucial, and that's actually a good tag. I like the CAR method instead of STAR. The challenge, the action, the result versus the situation, task, action, result. Be concise, clear and concise, but engage the interview. It should be a dialogue. And those are the things that when you're having an interview, those are the tools in your toolbox that you want to have and be able to be aware of. And then nothing replaces things like practice, practice, practice.
Exactly. That was a great demo. Thank you, Dr. Scott. We do have a couple of questions in the chat as we wrap up here. I know it's a great talk, and I love this. We are coming to the end of our time. While you were doing that demo, Karen had two questions. How do you add reference attachments, not pictures, in GPT? And then also she was asking during your demo, advanced data analysis option. Karen, you may want to unmute and just clarify that question.
Let me address that first. Advanced data analysis is the tool that I use when I analyze spreadsheets. I can pull in a spreadsheet, look at things. The analysis also for programming languages, it's really great for programming in virtually any language you can think of, whether it's Excel's a macro and Visual Basic for applications, VBA, or in Python or R or SQL. And you can give it code and say, you can either copy and paste and cut it and say, run this code, see if it's going to work, or it's not working, where did I go wrong? But you can also import PDF files. You can import Excel worksheet files, and there are tools and ways of doing that. You can't do that on 3.5 again, only on 4. But the other question, the adding of attachments, that's a function in the analysis is a plus sign in the prompt. And actually, I'll show you that here. I go back here and I go into, let's go, I'm going to go back to the top and I'm going to go for new chat. And in this new chat, I'm actually going to determine, I'm going to use data. Notice where it says send a message at the bottom of the screen, there's no plus sign. But when I go to advanced data analysis, I've got a plus sign right here and I can attach files. So advanced data analysis allows you to do things. And where 3.5 does not recognize handwriting or pictures or images, 4 will. So if you say, and I actually, I'll tell you how I just used it. One of my colleagues that I'm doing a 3-day class right now. If anybody's interested, you're welcome to it is recorded as well. It's like $125, but it's a 3-day class on this very topic. Goes into the background, goes into prompt engineering, goes into demonstration. It's for career coaches, career counselors, and anybody interested in the career. So what I did, I went to her website, said, oh, you got a great description here. I cut and pasted. I can't paste it. She's got a block on it that doesn't allow you to copy stuff from the website. I said, okay, GPT-4, do your stuff. I took a picture of it. I went and go ahead, I saved it. I imported the file. I said, summarize this. It summarized it really nicely. I said, enhance it. It actually enhanced it really nicely. So now I had the text that was purposely blocked. And by the way, I'm still worrying about my students doing this on my tests. And if I block it and they actually cut and paste it and then go ahead and have a picture of it. But then you're taking notes on your iPad or you're taking notes on your phone, whatever it might be, written notes that you have, take a picture of your handwritten notes. It can analyze it, summarize it, and categorize it for you. So hopefully that answers some of the questions. It's pretty, yes, it's pretty cool. Do I like this stuff? I love this stuff. I think you will too.
Your enthusiasm is definitely contagious.
Thank you.
Jose asked a question earlier. I know there's a later session, yes, on AI scanning cover letters and resumes. But if you can comment on that briefly, that would be appreciated as well. A little bit maybe about the ATS systems and how that, I know that's a whole program, but if you can give a little bit of your commentary on that.
I'll give you a plug. Go to the next session, ATS, make it happen. But I will also say that, remember I mentioned you can import resumes, you can import job descriptions, but you can also cut and paste. Now, GPT-3.5 has smaller capacity, about 1/6 the capacity, 1/7 the capacity of GPT-4. So again, if you're going to use this heavily, $20 a month, good investment. So you can cut and paste your resume. You can cut and paste a job description, or you can just ask it. Here's an industry. What are key words that an employer would be looking for? Make sure to integrate those into whatever you need and whatever you use. The applicant tracking system, I'll give you my opinion of it. It's fantastic. It does not replace people. It also has limitations too. So it's fantastic, but limited in that it has its own biases. By the way, we all have our biases. And there's actually I don't have the slide here, but what is it? ChatGPT leans left and libertarian, and Meta's Llama leans right and authoritarian as a bias to the model itself. You say, wait a minute, it's how can it be biased? Well, there's also a quote out there, ChatGPT is mostly affluent, mostly white, not neurodiverse, and when you look at that saying, well, it's based on the data set it came from. And the data set is very much English. I'll give you a German colleague. She's in the career space as well. And she says, I can ask the question in German. It knows German. It'll answer in German. But what I do is I take the German question, translate it to English, I ask it in English, and then I translate it back to German, and I get a much better answer. Why? Because it was trained on mostly English content. And yes, it's doing translation, which sometimes loses things in the translation, obviously. But the content is there, and the English conversation is impeccable. So it knows a lot of cool stuff. Hopefully that answers your question.
I think so. So just to wrap up, Dr. Scott, I want to give you an opportunity to kind of talk to our learners here, participants, about some of the things you have coming up, opportunities that you're presenting. Again, if you could review the books you have coming out, or that you have, and the sessions you mentioned, the course. And then also I'll drop my information in the chat as well if any of you want to schedule time with me. Again, to go over your resumes, cover letters, that kind of thing. I'll drop my scheduling link in the chat as well as we wrap up, and thank everyone for joining us today. And thank Dr. Scott for his valuable time.
And I'll drop my LinkedIn profile right here, just dropped in the chat. Copy the books that are available. You can go directly. I love tiny URLs. Books by Dr. Scott. And there's also a book launch party coming up on November 14th at 1 p.m. or 8 p.m. And that might be worthwhile and worth an investment of your time. A couple pieces of contact information. Again, feel free to connect. But there's also a career capsule newsletter. And I'll actually pop that in the chat as well. You might find it valuable. We publish it monthly. We do not use AI to publish it, but we do use AI at the end. We have AI conversation. We've had conversation with Bard, with Claude 2, with ChatGPT 3.5 and 4. And if you're curious about other seminars, Career GPT by Dr. Scott is there, available to you. And I'll go ahead and the final slide, contact information. My cell phone or WhatsApp link is 608-446-1000. You're welcome to take advantage of that. There's a LinkedIn group for career professionals. It's called NACE and Friends, National Association of Colleges and Employers. It's a pretty cool environment, pretty cool opportunity. And I'll actually give you the link to the course as well if you're curious. I'll go get that. Any other final questions as we begin to wrap up? Because you're right, time waits for no man or woman, that's for sure. Any comments or questions? Again, glad to be here. Glad for the opportunity to share. And I will go ahead in the chat. By the way, I'll share right now. If you look at my screen, which I will show you momentarily, and you will have access. My LinkedIn profile, yeah, I'm a LinkedIn guy, and I've been 5% of my grade on virtually every class I've taught for over 10 years has been LinkedIn. So that's the LinkedIn profile. Some things featured at the top. And this is that course. Here's the Career Capsule newsletter, Future Student Success. Okay, and we were working on a project for career service offices. But if I go here and I go grab the link here, I'm going to put that in the chat right now. Copy link to post. And when I put that in the chat, you'll have access to that if you like, if you're curious what it's about. So, and we started Monday, but it's all being recorded. Some people are going to get it after. We just had somebody say, I can't make any Monday, but I still want to get it, and they're getting it. So it's okay. I'm happy to assist. And if you have any questions, I give a warranty with all opportunities that I share. Free consulting. Okay. If you got a question, obviously I'm not going to write your resume for you at that point. But if you want to bounce some ideas, or if you're curious, you can tell I love this stuff, and I'm curious how you're using it. And I want to make sure that you get value. Lisa's kind enough to invite me, and I want to thank again, Lisa, for that opportunity to be here with you. But I'm excited to be of service.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Scott. I know as someone said in the chat, I'm really motivated to use ChatGPT a lot more as well. So I'm energized. And so thank you all so much for being here. Looking forward to seeing you all at future programs. And thank you so much, Dr. Scott, for your expertise. It was great. I enjoyed it so much. Thanks, everyone.